Call a regular meeting of Hibbing Public Schools ISD 701 to order, January 17th, 2024, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And with that, we'll move to item number 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you wish. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just a couple of things, if the audience won't have any conversations back and forth, because I've been told it affects the sound a little bit on our TV, so. And I'd like to turn this over now to Director Kim for a comment, please.
Chair Brookwood's board and everybody in attendance, I think this is a really tough meeting for all of us. And the first time we've been together in a couple of weeks. And if we could just take a moment to honor and to remember Director Nyberg and reflect on her contributions to our board and to our school and our community, I think that would be in order. This school meant the world to Director Nyberg, and it's just hard, so.
Thank you. With that, we'll take a 15-second moment of silence. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move to item 3, a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Director Polter, supported by Director Egan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. With that, we'll go to motion, or number 4, motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Moved by Director Polter, supported by Director McLaughlin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Just one question. Are we going to have a hard time finding those pathologists?
We have an applicant, so that's better than we've done lately. So we do have an applicant. I believe it closes tomorrow, I believe, so we'll see how it goes. But yes, I think we will be able to fill it. So.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Item 5, public comment. Rick?
There is none, Mr. Chair.
With that, we'll move to the administrative reports. We'll start with the student directors. Abby, Christian. Ladies first. Nothing from you there? Okay, we'll go to the directors.
I'll just share that I attended the MSBE conference with Mr. Berkowitz and Mr. Aldrich. And a couple of the workshops that I went to, one of them was on the READ Act, and I apologize, I didn't bring my information from it, so I can't really read off of it, but I found that one really informative and interesting on all of the work on the back end before it came to fruition here. So, but attended that workshop, and then the one that I actually liked the most was a student-led workshop, and it was 4 students, all from different parts of the state, big school, small school, middle school, and they really just had a Q&A, and were really honest about, they were all seniors, about what is really good and working well at their school district, and where they thought it could improve. And it was just very, very interesting getting that perspective from students. And I will say that one of the things that all of them stressed and agreed upon was one area at their districts, and I apologize again, don't have the information to tell you what school districts those were at. They said it would be nice if staff Administration was really more supportive of them starting their own groups and own clubs. One that they talked about was like just a puzzle club, you know, so nothing extravagant, nothing that costs a lot of money, but they thought, you know, a lot of times, their ideas, they didn't really feel heard all the time, and a lot of them have big ideas.
Sure.
And the other interesting thing that they shared is that even as 12th graders, they said they really do feel like they need, quote unquote, like playtime. Whereas, you know, they hear a lot of, you know, get off your phone, you have a lot of screen time. And they're like, but then if we're in a class where we don't have work to do, or a study hall, we don't have work to do, you know, that is kind of our only option, to go on our phone, to go on our iPad and have that screen time. And they said it would be nice if in classes such as that, if that's where they could have sort of that play. And that's different for every class, grade, school, you know, what they might look like. Maybe it's, you know, a card game, or like I said, a puzzle or whatnot. But it was interesting because, I mean, I look at even my teenagers and I think, you know, they don't really play. But to them, they just really felt like they needed that downtime to just not have to think, not have to always be, you know, on, so to speak. So I just found that very interesting, and there was a whole lot of great questions and great feedback from those students, but I don't know if we've ever done that at our school, where we just kind of have, maybe that's with our student council, but have that open conversation and just ask them, you know, those types of questions and get their feedback. Because I think sometimes as adults, we're not even on the same, you know, mind frame as these students, as what we're doing well, what we could be doing better, how to improve what we're doing well already. And those kids have great ideas. So anyway, I enjoyed going to that conference and gathering information from it. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Are either of you a part of Mr. Turner's leadership group that he's kind of established here? I know he didn't make it, it's not all athletes. I think it was representation from, just curious. I was hoping to draw from your knowledge, so, but okay, thank you.
Reflecting upon the MSBA, the way it opened, there was a computer scientist there from, he's in Switzerland now, excuse me. And he talked about how important it is for computer science and the technique behind it and everything. And he said Minnesota's last on the list of states for how far we are behind on that kind of stuff. Like Rick and Sarah, if they want to add in, that was the beginning of, there was a person from Switzerland, or a person from Minnesota going back and forth with the needs that, and they're not talking about like just internet and stuff like that, how things work and what it can do, and just basic knowledge. And part of the thing was how are they going to pay for it? Well, our legislature has, we're supposed to take one computer class or something.
It's coming, yeah.
It's coming up. And then they said, they focused on how teaching has been too often like in the past, reading, writing, arithmetic. You got to change it a little bit the way, and they wanted to throw in a little bit artificial intelligence into that, to how it, just so people know about it. It's alternative. Over comments from Rick and Sarah.
No, and we do have, you know, we'll have to follow the statute and the computer science programming that's coming up, but it was very interesting because they were talking more about embedding computer technology instruction from K up, and what that might look like, and how the needs of the world are changing, and how Minnesota schools are really just kind of behind the times, and we're still, you know, just lecturing and teaching, and we should be doing more hands-on. It's everything that we've talked about, CTE and the other program that we're doing, but I'm excited about the computers. I'm worried about how we're going to find instructors and people to teach it, because I don't know where that's coming from, but I'm excited about what it can provide our students and the opportunities.
It's just odd that it was more than what, less than 10 years ago, we thought we were cutting edge because we had iPads.
iPads and that.
That was like, we were at the top of the heap on that.
Yeah, and he said this
And
goes way
that's-
beyond the COVID and the iPad stuff.
Yeah, so it's a whole different thing. And AI is just kind of over our heads.
It was kind of an eye-opener saying Minnesota's in last place, when Minnesota's usually right up where. Sarah, anymore?
I just thought, you know, when he was talking about all of the artificial intelligence, all of the career opportunities and the things that maybe, you know, a person right now doesn't even realize looking at it or watching it, that is not a real person, that it already is, you know, being used, and it fools you, you can't tell. And how already, how many jobs that's replacing already, you know, so that's, you know, maybe a little scary on that end, but just, you know, where these jobs could take these students once they get even just a little taste of what that looks like.
And they said there's a lot of money to be made, and people will train other people to get this too, so it's just something to be aware of.
I think that's important too for us, just to prepare and to have the eye on how the shift in the potential shift in the workforce and the kinds of careers. So we're trying to prepare our students the best we can.
Interesting. Anything else?
I have something.
Okay.
I guess I can direct this towards our
Absolutely.
leader here.
Thank you.
It sent out that memo today about suspensions. And I guess my question was, are we looking at an increase? Because I don't have any numbers from last year. That's what we're looking at. And it looks like it's mostly 7th and 8th grade.
Well, Mrs. Sikora is here, and I could have her speak to that specifically when she gives her presentation.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I think what I sent you today, I apologize, on the top, the enrollments were there for each of those 3 years, but I think they were kind of jumbled up. We've been basically about 1,000 students for the last 3 years.
Okay.
A little above or a little below.
I was just concerned because the percentage doesn't seem very high, but the numbers seem high, if that makes sense for
It
7th and 8th grade.
Yes, and the 7th and 8th grade, maybe we'll let Mrs. Sikora speak to that when she gives her presentation, but that's where her and Mr. Snyder spend the majority of their time.
Yeah, I think if you know where I'm going with
Yes.
this, we're looking at changing the school parameters, so is that gonna make a difference on, you know, where the 7th grade students are placed versus the 8th grade students?
So we talked through all that today in an administrative meeting, and Mr. Gabarty's also talking today, so maybe we could ask him, because we talked through what 7th grade is gonna look like in his building, and I think he's got a good handle on it, is prepared.
I didn't have a little mouse on the wall today.
Well, it might be a bit premature to talk about it, but I think where Director Egan was, when I looked at the numbers as well, it's like the 7th and 8th grade. And I keep coming back to the last meeting, kind of, I don't know what the exact word you use, but like the controlled independence, or if there's anything we can do with that 8th grade class, it would be nice to.
Mrs. Sikora's got a brainstorm highlight of an idea that she's gonna share in just a moment.
Wonderful.
Okay, any committee reports? Hearing none, now we'll get to administrative reports. Rick?
Yeah, Mrs. Sikora.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here today, and it is hard to look at that empty chair. I just want to say that, because if it was any of you, it'd be hard to look at an empty chair, and so I'm thankful that all of you are here today. So our 7th and 8th grade, the discipline reports, I think is a good segue. We are hoping that by moving 7th grade to the Lincoln, they will be the leaders of the school and not have they come here and it's like, woo, there's all this freedom and unstructured time and time to kind of get into some trouble, that if they are still at the Lincoln, it gives them more time to be, you know, some maturity and things like that. And then with the 7th grade out, our 8th graders, we have a plan for them to be more confined or in a wing of their own, where all of the programming can be tailored to that middle school model. So we would essentially make this whole hallway and all the classes around this hallway an 8th grade wing. Lockers for 8th graders would be here. They would have access to the counselors, the nurse's office, our North Home Services, but we would kind of break the department mindset into, we'd have an 8th grade team of teachers. So we'd have 2 math, 2 science, 2 social studies, 2, what am I missing, English? In this hallway. So the kids would stay here unless they have to go downstairs for lunch, of course, and they have to go if they're in band. But we would even dedicate a bathroom just for 8th grade so that they wouldn't be mixed in with the older kids. So I think that would really help diminish some of the problems we see our 7th and 8th graders getting into. So that is one big idea. So we're gonna, with that movement, there's gonna be probably 25 rooms moving because we're gonna have 7th grade teachers move to the Lincoln, 8th grade teachers move to this hall, some of these hallway teachers move upstairs, and then Boys and Girls Club is moving over to the high school. And so we will have a designated area for them too. So lots of things up in the air, but moving parts for all of them.
So for the 7th and 8th grade, I know on the sheet that Mr. Aldrich sent out on the front page, it kind of gave a total as of 12-14, but it doesn't really break up the grades, I guess, unless I'm not looking at it correctly. So when we're looking at the number of discipline referrals for 7th and 8th grade, what category did those typically fall under? Whereas on the front page, most of it fell under violence, but I think that was as a whole, correct?
Well, and so that little graph that you're seeing there, that's a separate program that Mrs. Sikora uses, and we get alerts. If a student is on their device.
Yeah,
So I can speak to it? Okay.
it's 2 different pages.
Okay, so what you were looking at, the light speed alerts, so we have a monitoring system for all the iPads. So if kids are using their Gmail or their Google Docs and putting anything that's talking about self-harm, profanity, violence, weapons, we get an instant alert on that through our email.
Okay.
So that's that breakdown, and that is the whole school.
Okay, so this
So
isn't
that-
necessarily dealing with the suspensions and the discipline?
No, that's totally-
completely separate from what
Completely
the other
separate.
pages?
Yep, this is a monitoring system, and we get alerted daily on some things. Like I had one just yesterday, it was talking about a helicopter and a machine gun. So I called the student down, it was a 12th grader, and found out it was for a project that they're doing in world history about, the war. And so I was like, okay, good, because all of those things get flagged, so we can look into it. But yes, we check into all those, but that's separate than disciplinary.
So this then, the second page, what I'm looking at, so of these numbers that are here, what majority of these, like what category is the highest one? Would that still be violence?
No,
Would it-
so
what-
these-
Or
okay.
would it be?
So what Sarah's looking at is a little breakdown of by grade. So 7th grade, the number of referrals that come in between that time frame, September 1st to December 18th, was 150 discipline referrals. It could be anything from excessive tardiness, disruptive behavior, taking pencil. A lot of it is really just not violent or anything because the number of suspensions was only 15. So the 150.
But that's what I mean, do we know, or do you have more information as what those breakdowns are? Because I mean, those look like high numbers, like Mr. Egan was saying, but if it's, when we look at the breakdown and the reasoning behind it, it might not be as alarming, is what I'm
No, it's
trying
not.
to get at.
Right. So we get an email alert anytime someone puts in our Power School, so all the teachers and pairs, if they put something in that we need to maybe address with students, or maybe they've logged it as discipline, but they took care of it within their classroom, at least we know it's documented. So I could pull up all 150 log entries of discipline referrals and just read out, but it would be, like I said, tardies, or kids were poking at each other, or they wouldn't be quiet, or they were on their phone and I had to take their phone away. It's a lot of miscellaneous.
I just think there's things that are more severe than others, I guess.
Right, and that's what, like the suspensions are the fights or the harassment or you know, the things that rise to that level.
And we do have the data on the 911 calls, and we know what reason each of those 911 calls were when we called police, correct? We have that data.
Yes.
I think what Director Kubarti's saying is, can we drill down further and just show what that is? Do you have that information, other than going through every log entry?
We'd have to
Can
go
you-
through every log entry, and I'd have to, we don't have a nice data warehouse where I could say, okay, how many violence or how many fights? I would have to individually go through and count each one and see.
Well, the way I looked at it, we had 150 some incidents, and then there's only 15 suspensions, so I looked at it as 135 or so minor incidents, if you would call it.
Yeah.
And then suspension from the major problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how you were talking about on the front page, the light speed alerts, it just reminded me, at the conference last week, there was a vendor there that I spoke with. I believe it was Securely, and they looked us up, and I don't believe that's who we use for this, but the same concept here of what they track and the alerts. And one of the questions that I asked him, and maybe the people that we use do, but I said, do we also do this for our staff? And he said, I've never had that question before. He said, no, this is strictly for students. And I thought, and we got in the conversation because I think, if, everybody's talking about mental health, and who's to say our own staff members aren't struggling with things just like our students. And you'd like to assume that they don't. You'd like to assume that they won't be using their school computer for that. But if they are, we would certainly want to reach out to them or
Yep.
know that they're struggling and offer assistance. So do we know if who we use on the iPads for students, if they are also tracking what our staff is looking up online?
I don't think that would be a Joel Anderson question for sure to see, but they can look to see what any of us are doing probably at any given time. But I don't know if there's an alert system. Do you, Mr. Aldridge?
I don't think so. There's gotta be some privacy concerns with that we'd have to think about, like for staff. There's privacy concerns with students that we have to make sure that we meet those requirements. But, as far as like if staff are on a site and it was something inappropriate, yes, that gets flagged. I don't know necessarily like if somebody was searching for suicide.
But we also
I
have
don't
all
know about
kinds
that.
of like firewalls and
Yeah.
system, like we can't search certain things because it will say
It's tied for
this is a security, this is whatever, I don't know the name of it. But
It's blocked.
it's blocked, we can't
We block a lot, just about
yes,
everything.
things are blocked.
Very
I'm
few
just saying,
things-
if students
yeah.
are looking,
Yeah.
we track what
Yeah.
students about weapons, self-harm, violence, explicit, whatever.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing that on staff also?
Sure.
And it's a work computer, and I understand that, but again, if they're looking at things that, because they're struggling, we do that for students, so we know if they're struggling. Why aren't we doing that for staff? But that gentleman at the vendor, he couldn't answer that question either, so it was just an interesting conversation, that's all.
I think you're really going into a gray area if you start monitoring people's health questions, whether it's mental health or cancer or anything, that there's some real strict federal guidelines when it comes to stuff like that. I work for an agency that we dealt with this every day, and you did not monitor people's health questions. That's
But
gross violation.
the
Even if it's a county, even if it's a school district computer, there's still an expectation of privacy for what teachers and staff are doing with it.
Well, and my mind comes to two things, the bargaining unit agreements, I don't know if there's anything in there, and then our technology policy. So I don't know, I don't have an answer, but I think that would be a gray area.
Very.
Along that same line, just to get away a little bit, without going into someone's computer, I know we try to do the best we can for the students for their mental health. Do we have somebody that staff can talk to if they have a problem?
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so do you want to talk to that more, Renee? I mean, you're more involved. Our mental health committee, all of North Holmes people, all of our counselors. You know, we have people down in the special education office that deal with crisis, and it's staff, it's students, it's,
Right, and also if it's private, I know that people can go talk to Trina, and Trina can give out some resources based on our health insurance. You know, so people can get therapy or counseling without anyone having to know about it, or having to go to another district employee or a different staff.
Like an employee assistance program.
You're right, right. So going back to Sarah's question, so I just pulled out all the 7th grade, and it's like refusal to go to class, feeling someone was yelling in class, disruptive and rude, just those kind of behaviors that sometimes the teacher just wants to have it documented. They maybe make a phone call home or just talk to the student, but they log it so we have that information. So it's not anything, you know, real terrible, but it's something that, behaviors that need to be addressed. So, yeah. Okay, so then I had a few things of my own listed. I know that, so before I start with that, Director Gabarty was also talking about her experience down at the MSBA. And as far as play, we do have Makerspace, and I'm glad that Mrs. Ronning is in our audience today, because students can use all grade levels, can go to the media center, and she has Makerspace and different projects and crafts going on throughout the day. So if they have during their lunch or during their study hall, they can go there. And then, is anyone in here? No. During lunch, the senior high lunch, 9th through 12th graders, they've started this card game, and they were gambling, which is not okay, but when we told them money can't be involved, but they're sitting there playing cards, and it's really fun to watch them interacting and maybe not being on their phones so much, having that face-to-face. And so, yeah, I do know that there's several teachers in the 9th through 12th grade who allow some phone time, and you guys can correct me too if I'm wrong, but there's teacher discretion in the 9th through 12th, so they offer that time. Like, what would you two say, Addison, Christian, about, you know, generally in your classes for play or phone?
Usually, as long as your work's done and you're not disruptive, most teachers are open to you just going on your phone, as long as there's nothing else to do.
And how about AI? Because I know that's been a really hot button topic. And we had, you know, kids last year who were writing their graduation speeches, and they were talking about how they were using AI to get started with ideas and how they use it as a tool. But what have you two learned about AI in your classes? Anybody?
Not much. We don't really use it very much.
Mm.
I personally don't use it.
Well, I think it's blocked for kids. It's not blocked for staff, so they can show the kids kind of, but.
I haven't seen it in my classes.
I personally haven't seen much of it. I know it's discussed, especially in English classes,
Right.
for the specifics of using it. Of course, you don't want to use it just to write your whole essay for you or something like that. But it's been mentioned a few times of how it could be useful for if it's used in the right context.
Right.
I don't want to interrupt you again, but when you talked about the card game at lunch and gambling, I also had this discussion with Mr. Aldrich from the conference. There was a vendor there with handouts, and I grabbed them and just talking about gambling and how addicting it can get. And Mr. Aldrich and I were talking, and I know that we often have speakers come in and talk about all sorts of different things, but it would, I'll send you the information or give it to Mr. Aldrich, but I thought it was a great idea to have a guest speaker come in and talk about gambling, because they can do it on their phones every day on different apps, and people like really big sports bugs, they'll bet on games, and I see it happening a lot. Not to say that a whole bunch of our student body is doing it, but just getting that information and awareness that you're not going to get rich off of gambling, and the dangers and how much you can lose in that, and the handouts that I got I read through, I thought they were great, but I'll just pass that information on to you.
Was it, so she already contacted me.
Oh, she did,
It's
okay.
it's the Minnesota Alliance on Problem Gambling, and I sent you the email, Ms. Sikora. She's just, if you have an interest, they can come in and do
Well, yeah,
Presentation.
things like that are so good for our health classes. So for example, we have a 9th grade and 7th grade health every day for these students that they have to take. And so Dr. Ursula Whiteside, who is a former Hibbing student, she's coming back and she's gonna visit both classrooms, right, or just 7th grade?
Just 7th grade.
She's
this
gonna
time.
go into all the 7th grade health classrooms and talk about some mental health and coping and give them strategies for if they're feeling overwhelmed or having a panic attack and things like that. So that would be a perfect place if we had someone to come in and speak. Same with the, Mr. Polcher has been talking about, drugs and stuff like that too, and the dangers of vaping. All that gets talked about in those health classes. We are having a speaker, Terrence Talley. I think I sent you his information. He's being paid for by community and also our wellness, our mental health committee. He's going to come in and visit with all of our 7th through 12th grade students at 3 different sessions. And he's a motivational speaker and talks about hope and things like that. The biggest thing at the high school right now, it's registration time. So we had a parent meeting as soon as we came back from winter break, talked about SITS classes and our CTE classes, career academies, all the things we have to offer. And I would like to think that we're still cutting edge here. I mean, we have a premier fax facility and fax teachers where hardly anyone can say that they have that in their district. So our kids can learn how to sew and how to cook, and those are the things that are amazing. Our industrial tech and the all of the equipment that we have, it's really good. The number of our SITS classes that we offer, our students can actually earn an AA if they take their transcripts and get them all approved under one college. They could take enough credits to have that. Carrie, tell me some more. I don't want to miss anything, but computer science you talked about. Carl Sadness is qualified to teach it. He's already been working on the curriculum, and we want to offer that not next year, but the following year when he has all of the things put together. So we will be ahead of the game for that. So I would like to think that we are still doing a really good job with the things that we're doing here. One of the classes that was new this year for next year is Minnesota History, and some other new
There's
classes.
some new science electives. There's an intro to healthcare career course. I mean, I've been gone for 7 years, but looking at that registration manual, I'm amazed at what we're offering kids. You're not seeing that everywhere. So,
And I had a meeting with our student council kids. It's a president's meeting every month. And I asked them, how did you feel registration went? How did you feel about the course offerings? And they're all very happy with all the selection. And they said it was really hard to choose because there's so many things that they think are really good. And you guys are seniors, so you're done. You're done with your schooling. But if you have anything you want to add about some of the strengths about our school.
Well, I think the registration process alone is usually pretty clear. I know in my earlier years of registration, and I'm not sure if there's a buffer in between the grades, but I think it was a bit more, when I was in 7th and 8th grade, that was a few years ago, but our registration system was a bit more loose, and now I notice we have sheets that are way more detailed. They describe a lot more, and I think it's structured a lot better, and I think it's just a really strong system compared to where it may have been a few years ago.
I agree with that.
And we worked really hard, and Ms. McDonald was a part of that too, putting a menu. So we not only having the course catalog that lists all 200 some courses, but a menu by each grade level, so you're not confused by which classes you can take based on your age level. So that's been really helpful. The other thing that we have been working on is the realignment planning. We had a department chair meeting yesterday to talk about it, admin meeting today. but you heard some of those ideas for our 8th grade and moving some things around. So I think that will be good. Oh, and I forgot to say, we have 2 lunch shifts right now. If we have this 8th grade separated, 8th grade could fit in the cafeteria during first lunch. For the last 20 years or however long 7th and 8th grade has been here, we've had to have 2 locations, so that we've had the gym where they eat in the balcony or the cafeteria. Well, if we do this next year, the 8th grade will have their own lunch. They can be in the cafeteria, eat, and then the supervisors can take them when they're done eating to the gym to blow off some steam and play. Or we could do like half and half. Some get to play first, then go to the gym, or go to lunch, and some can eat lunch and then go play. So we'll have that built in. And then 9th through 12th will have the open campus and their own lunchtime. So that's another way to keep them separated. And 8th grade will be in the morning in the gym and have open gym all morning. So a lot of time for play. And lunch is 40 minutes long, so they have a good long stretch to eat and play. They're like sweaty when they leave the gym. Sue Schwartz was nominated and she won the VFW Teacher of the Year, and she was just presented yesterday with that award, and she got a check for $100. She's been teaching civics for 30 years, and so it's very well deserved, and the VFW award is based on your teaching of citizenship, and so it just is a really good fit. Those I think are the biggest highlights we have, but do you have any questions about the high school things? Kim?
I do about the registration. So I attended the registration night for parents and, listened about the registration manual and all the course offerings. Do we have a lot of students that are registering for those courses, so they're actually a go? Some of the, the newer, more
So
innovative-
we have, I'm glad you brought that up. So Carrie and I are going to meet on Friday because we ran a list of all the kids that haven't registered. Some were out sick or they hadn't registered yet. So those kids are being contacted by the counselors to get it fully registered. So by Friday, we're hoping that all 1,000 kids will be registered for classes. We're going to go look through all of the course requests and see what they're looking at, and determine how many sections we're going to need of each class.
Because even some of the newer classes, maybe the more innovative ones, even if we don't have, I'm going to be careful what I say here from a budget perspective, but if we don't have quite that number, it might be worth the investment to try to get to peak interest, and once a few kids register for it, others may pique their interest in wanting to register.
I'm excited about a lot of the talk. The teachers have been promoting these classes too. So when kids go to their classrooms, they're hearing from the teacher, oh, you should try out this new class, or did you hear that Mr. Fleming and Mr. Casey are going to partner with Anatomy and Physiology? And actually, so if you're in the weight training, the same hour that Mr. Fleming has his Anatomy and Physiology, they're going to do some team teaching and talk about the actual muscle groups that are working and what that anatomy looks like. So that's exciting. The aquatics class is also going to have a lifeguard and CPR component, so we're going to train our own lifeguards, which is something that we definitely need. So there's some exciting things. And jump in and add if you have anything too, because Carrie's been working really hard with the registration process as well.
I think we got a really good system going this year. We've got a lot of structure, and I'm really, it's almost like Christmas morning for us on Friday to see how
Yeah, I can't
if all
wait.
this hard work
I can't
has
wait
come.
to see what they've signed up for.
It's exciting.
We're going to move civics to 12th grade, so that will be different next year. 9th graders won't have civics anymore, so that's going to be a big change. So the incoming 9th graders, they'll have it when they get to their senior year. So that's one big change. Independent living has been personal finance, but people don't really know that that's what that class is, and so we're going to change the name. I don't think we changed it for this year, did we? But in the future, independent living will change to personal finance, because that's mandated by the legislature, but we are offering it, and then it'll be required. So lots of good things coming. Any other questions?
Very good, thank you.
I appreciate the data. It was not easy, I'm sure, to pull that, I mean, it was time consuming, I'm sure, to pull that together. And, I mean, all the good things in this school, I just feel like we're really, have moved in a really positive direction here, so.
Yes. And that data, it's, you know, that's kind of like the tough stuff to look at, but that's part of our job too. You know, everyone makes mistakes, and our kids especially, because they're learning and they're navigating friendships and relationships and figuring out where they belong in the world. And sometimes, especially with their age, it's hard to pay attention and not throw something at a neighbor. And so that's the stuff that we're working on. And so it's kind of like the reality, like besides all this fun stuff of registration and department chair meetings and planning, we also have every day the kids coming in and crying about something or having a conflict. I mean, Christian doesn't come in and cry too often, but.
And with the reorganization, having those seventh graders be kind of that role model in a middle school concept, and then what we're gonna do with the eighth grade here, I think it'll be awesome. I think it's gonna help those sorts of things.
So it's up to the board with all this that's going on to figure out how we're gonna promote this to get more kids to come here. I mean, technically, it's great for what we have now, but how can we draw some other kids from other schools to come in and take advantage of what we have to offer?
That's right.
Well, we are offering an online program as well, and I forgot to mention that. So now, when registration is all done, we have the numbers. We're going to put out an application process for a pilot program of online courses for just juniors and seniors to start, and the classes would be maxed at 30 kids. So we'll have some electives and we'll have core classes for that online program. So hopefully we can get some kids maybe from other districts or get some students who have been working from home, you know, if they're doing homeschool and we're, you know, trying to stay away from the distractions of school, and maybe this is something that they're looking for. So that's something that we're trying out too. So that information will be coming soon. And I forgot to mention we had a big fun night on Friday. And we had several kids here for a pool party, open gym. We have a whole shelf, like cabinet on wheels with games. And so kids can play games and eat pizza. And so that was a fun night, especially when it was so cold out and there were no sports to go enjoy. So.
And then with Director Egan, what can we do to really get out there and promote all the good things that are going on in this school, our elementary schools? I don't know what the answer is, but even, you know what, just going after some of those students who live in the Hibbing School District and have open enrolled out, if we could just get them to give us another look, because I think our district has changed. I don't know what we can do.
Well, we've talked about it for years, and we haven't come up with that golden answer yet.
Well, maybe, you know, taking it, like, if Marie's not, or, no, Marie, if she was here, or maybe I should send her an email of all our course menus, just to, if she talked about all the things we have to offer, that might be a way. We try and take pictures and send as much as we can to our Facebook page. Those, you'd be surprised, but some of those postings are seen by 54,000 people. Because we get Mr. Aldrich and I get the data, and she'll send, this post reached 54,000. And I think one of them was when we did the curriculum showcase last year. We took a conference night, and instead of doing parent-teacher conferences, all of the staff had tables and posters and talked about their courses, and so parents could come in and see what our district has to offer, or for courses. And we took pictures, sent it to Facebook, and that just went crazy.
You know, but I think, we need to do that, I believe that, but I think then almost taking it one step further, and it's just kind of that personal approach, because you might be in a different district right now, right? And to take that bold step of, well, I'm gonna go over to that night and check out what Hibbing has to offer. I mean, I don't know if it's a parent or us as school board members or community members or the teachers, just trying to reach out to that person to say, hey, let's go, it's okay, just kind of that personal touch. I know, I mean, like sometimes, when you're thinking about getting involved in things, until somebody actually picks up the phone and calls you, it's just that little nudge that you needed to really take that step. I don't know how we can do that. If there's, names or if there's just a thought.
Our performances and games and things like that are some of the best ways, listening to Christian sing in Beauty and the Beast. It's amazing, and then that's the talk that gets out, like this, what a great program. And you're a hockey player? And so the game, my kids love to go to the hockey games, and so that's where they were last night. And those are the joys too of school, is supporting your fellow athletes. And
I agree.
Are those, like how you had Friday night, is that strictly just for students, or is that open to other people to be able to come on?
sometimes we do families. We'll do like a family. Last year we did a family night, and so they could bring all their little brothers and sisters and cousins from the Lincoln and play in the pool. This last one was for 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, but I've had a lot of requests now from the older kids saying, hey, we want a pool party. So, yeah, there's some planning in the works. And now that we have Swank, it's a streaming service where we can have movies play for kids. We would like to have the auditorium and have a big movie night, and kids can bring in their stuffed animals and eat popcorn in the cafeteria and watch a movie together. Just fun, different things that we haven't tried before.
And you know what, I think a lot of it is geared towards our students, and I get that, and I understand, we need to keep it respectful, but I feel like kids, whether it's Hibbing kids and Chisholm kids and Nashwauk kids, like, they know each other. They get along, whatever. If there's any way we could structure it where, it's okay, I'm a Hibbing student, to bring my friend, maybe bring a friend, maybe lives in Hibbing but goes to school in Cherry or something, to just try to get their foot in the door. And then they're gonna go home and talk about the great experience they had, and might take a few more chaperones, and maybe some of the school board would have to step up and help with that, but, just
It's
getting
little
it
by
in the door.
little. I agree with you. Like, prom now is open to, we guests, so we can have kids from other districts come to our dances. And at this Terrence Talley performance or presentation, the VCA kids are coming over, and I'm thinking, oh, I wish they'll come into our auditorium and they'll see how beautiful it is, and they'll see our kids and be like, oh yeah, we're friends from whatever, and maybe they'll come here.
Well,
Years ago, we had the youth center, and that drew kids from all over different communities.
because again, I keep saying, I think the kids really get along and they enjoy being together and doing things together. It's more, just the adults, and I know I'd be willing to help if it meant, like you can bring a student from a different district. That'd be okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
Christian
Clark.
and Addison.
Very
I'm
nice.
glad that you two are here representing two of our finest.
Okay, so I can piggyback off of some of the stuff Mrs. Spore was talking about regarding the Lincoln. So, start back at the beginning when she was talking about suspensions and stuff like that. At the Lincoln, we have probably significantly less, because obviously we have some younger kids and dealing with different situations and stuff at the Lincoln, but I just pulled up some quick data for you. Like last year, we had a total of 67 total suspensions for the whole year. Some of that is multiple students, getting a couple, 2, 3, whatever throughout the school year. And as of right now, this year, we're at 30 right now, we're basically at the halfway point of the year. Keep in mind also, third graders, now with the new laws, there's no suspensions for K through 3 students, so that has changed due to the legislature from last year. Typically, we don't have, I think last year we maybe had less than 5 third graders get suspended for something. It was pretty minimal. So we deal with things on a different thing. But with the movement we're talking about in the restructure and having 7th grade down in our building, in my building now, working on putting some schedules in front of myself. We'll be working with teachers. I have to wait. We're gonna probably figure out exactly what we're gonna have coming down by the beginning of March. We have to get through some dates coming up regarding turning in some credits for lane changes and stuff, which determines the seniority list, so we'll get all that ironed out coming up per contract, and once that's all in place, then we'll know who lands where, and we'll be able to figure out who's coming down from up to high school with Ms. Cora, and then a lot of it goes up for registration and the meeting they're gonna have coming up this Friday, so all of that has to happen before we can figure out, you know, which teachers are gonna be down at the Lincoln with me. The biggest question will be scheduling, setting it up at the Lincoln. I know for sure 7th grade will rotate through schedules like they do here, so we'll get them by their disciplines, and we'll have 42-minute hours, and I've kind of set up a 7-period day. The question will be with my building now will be, do we want to do that with 5th and 6th as well? I'm going to get the teachers involved with that, and we'll have discussions. We've started some discussions already regarding that to get into that kind of a middle school setting inside the buildings with 5, 6, and 7. 4th grade will probably stay like they are now, more elementary level, because we still want to have that as well for them. We'll also look at the layout of the building next year. Like right now, I have 6th grade kind of secluded off by themselves, and 4, 5, and 3, 4, and 5 in the rest of the building. Now it might just flip that and have 4th kind of secluded by themselves, 5, 6, 7 in an area where they can do some more of this collaboration, working together. So all that's coming up down the road, so we're talking about discussing it, getting stuff in front of us, figuring it all out. The one nice thing about us having 7th grade now is that basically the kids that are in my building right now are the same exact kids I have next year. So they're 3 through 6 are just gonna shift to 4 through 7. So our kids, we're not gonna get anyone new, and no one's leaving. So we're gonna have the same kids, just shifting grades. The real good advantage with us having 7th graders, I have them for 3 years prior to that, so we know the kids know the building, they know what's going on. As Ms. Scores said, they'll be kind of the leaders of the building. I think the discipline and suspensions, like 7th grade wise, from the numbers here to the numbers at the Lincoln are gonna take a big drop. Because coming over here, they're in a brand new building, so they're stepping into something new. They're stepping into teachers and staff and people that don't know them like we've known them for the years. They're stepping into influence of older kids. This will give them that extra year of maturity and all that to come to before they come up here. As like the 3rd graders staying down, they're gonna gain another year of maturity and all that before they come to the Lincoln. So I think it's gonna be a win-win on both ends. I mean, ideally, like we talked about in the long-range planning that we did 4 or 5 years ago, I'd like to get to a middle school setting. We've talked a lot about 8th grade. And whether or not we could do that, I think space-wise right now it'll be pretty much impossible, because we're doing all the shifting. We're going to be adding students to the Greenhaven and Washington. I'll be basically staying the same, but you know, the Lincoln's always been stuffed right to the max. Every time I have a couple rooms open up, I'm like, all right, we got some space. It fills right back up within, you know, a matter of a month or, you know, a little bit of time. So, but exciting. I mean, I'm excited for it. The teachers at the Lincoln, you know, are all actually really positive about it. They're on board. Our 3rd grade teachers, you know, there's a lot of questions about how it's all going to shake out. We're working through all the fine tuning right now as an admin team. I think it's going to be very, very good move, easy transition in my eyes, but we have a little bit of work to do just to get stuff laid out and prepare for next year. So.
Can I just add one thing?
Yep.
Just so the board knows too, that a lot of the staff, when we announced before Christmas, they were concerned. What does that mean? Where am I going? Where do I have to go to the Greenhaven? I've been to Washington for whatever it might be. But we've shared with staff, and they've had, all the principals have had building staff meetings. And what our goal here is not to shuffle the deck. We want to take grade level teams and have the whole team transfer to their new site. We're not. It's not about shuffling the deck here. No, if we might have some opportunities that, you know, through retirement, that there might be some opportunity for somebody to say, hey, I've always taught 3rd, but now I'd like to be in 5th grade or whatever it might be, and we'll work with those people and honor it. But that was the biggest fear, I think, is like, oh my God, like I'm just going to find out on the last day of school that I am teaching 1st grade next year and I haven't taught 1st grade for 3 years or something. We wouldn't do that to our staff, and we want them to be prepared. The other thing that we've that we talked about today, and I want to just, again, just kind of get it out and get your reaction a little bit to it and see what you think, but if we have a good winter, if we're not canceling multiple cold weather or winter days because of snow, we would like to look at sending students home, having the last day for students be May 24th, Friday. Is that the correct date?
Yeah.
Friday, May 24th. So it's the Friday before Memorial Day, correct?
Correct.
And then that would give our staff Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to just prepare for this move. They're gonna, when we talked about maybe a day or maybe 2 days, we've realized how large this is gonna be, just 25 classrooms in this building alone. Furniture that's gonna have to switch between buildings with the maintenance crews. That's what we're hoping to do. But that's a wish if we're still within our hours and our minimums. We have to get to 1,020 hours at the high school. That's the bare minimum. So if we're within that window, we can do that, then I might bring something back to the board for your discussion and hopefully approval. We want to make this move easy on staff, right? We don't want staff pulling their hair out. We don't want them leaving for the summer unsure of what it might look like in the fall, because we really need, once staff leave for the summer, we need them out of here for the summer so we can get our stuff done in the background. So just wanted to throw that out there to you, that it probably wouldn't be until May sometime that we have that discussion, but just an option possibly.
So when do we think we're gonna have a relatively solid plan that says, okay, me as a teacher, now I'm going from this classroom to whatever classroom in whatever building? When do we think that we're gonna have that level of detail
We
available?
think we basically have it now. So we worked on some of that today. We're working on a draft that we're gonna share with staff that will show just that. That I'm teaching this year, this is what my assignment is for next year. The only trouble to really finalize that is February 1st is the deadline for people that are on leaves of absence to let us know if they're returning. So we won't know that for sure on a couple of people until February 2nd. There is a contractual timeline that people are supposed to turn in their intent to retire by March 1st. So that's waiting out there another month. That one doesn't worry me as much. If we have an opening, we have an opening. That'd be a bonus for us in a lot of ways if somebody retires. So I'd say the other piece to this is we have to have all our ducks in a row. If anybody was potentially to be non-renewed or ULA'd, we'd have to have all that done by the end of March at the very latest. So the board would take action on that in the month of April.
If we do agree and say yes, so that Friday,
Yep.
May 24th will be the last day for students or whatnot,
Yep.
will that change the date of graduation?
It would not.
So that would remain the same day?
Yes.
Okay, and I asked that because I'm on the all-night grad
That's
party
secret.
committee.
You do
And
not-
we already did our flyers, we were sending out donation letters already,
You
so
don't
that was
change
gonna
the
change. I was
graduation.
gonna say, we need to go back and update on our end on our.
If I want to be run out of town, I'd change graduation in January. No.
And all the reconfiguration and work that it entails won't change the
We're at
ability
the
to
Lincoln?
have the all-night grad party at the Lincoln?
Shouldn't.
Okay.
So they will, because all the grab utilizes the
Cafeteria
gym,
and the gym.
cafeteria and that area around there should be fine. Yeah.
Another question.
Mhm.
Hopefully you're doing okay after, whatever, but now we have a dean of students, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna talk about that next. I was gonna say, things, I mean, it's been a couple of months running by myself. It has its moments, I guess you could say, and the biggest thing that drives me a little nuts, it's more my OCD, is I like to just, at the end of the day, everything's done for that day. While with being busy and stuff like that, depending on the days, stuff would carry over to the next day. As you come in the next day, hopefully you get caught up, and it depends on what happens the next day. There's been quiet days, and then there's been, really busy days when stuff just gets rolling. It seems like it just all rolls into one thing. But that's been the biggest thing for me, is just making sure I'm getting all like my logging done, like Mrs. Corr was talking about, and contacting parents and doing all that kind of stuff on top of the administrative side of things. when there's two of us there, it's nice because you tag off on the discipline, but then you also have all the administrative stuff that you're doing with staff, and just the buildings and, you know, scheduling and this event's going on in the PTO, and you start throwing all that in, and, you know, I guess don't realize how much Bob was doing until he was gone. Really, I mean, we know what we did discipline-wise, we see that all day long, but it's like all those stuff that you'd get, that he was just, you know, those phone calls. Had a parent square message come into my phone at 3:25 this morning. So you never know when stuff's just gonna pop up that, you know, that's just how it goes. But I appreciate being able to hire in a dean. I'm looking forward to Jen coming on. She's gonna start next Monday. She's nervously excited. She's been doing a good job. She's stepped up in a lot of roles in our building already. Like head of our PLCs, she's been in charge of our district leadership team. She does our referrals for special ed. Some of that stuff she'll just keep right on doing. So it'll be nice, really be nice to have someone else there.
And I need to back up, and this is something that happened, or the question that came up at parents' night for registration, and fortunately Carrie was there and pulled her into the discussion, but I think it's important for the community to know, and hopefully nothing's changed since we answered that person, but one parent question was about if 7th grade goes to the Lincoln, what's that gonna look like for two things, honors courses. So I hope that we're still gonna have the honors courses.
Yes,
we've
we'll
had
still
that
have-
discussion.
We'll still have honors courses.
Perfect, okay, so I want parents to know
Yep.
that. And then the other thing was sports, and we thought that was not gonna, the move building that they're in does not affect their ability by Minnesota State High School
No.
League. So just want the community to know that.
Well, yeah, the only thing it'll do with sports is our athletic director will have to be involved a little bit more at the Lincoln with, if issues arise with student athletes who are in 7th grade or coming down to meet with kids in our building. But other than that, it should be just the same as it's been. Yeah.
And again, appreciate to the staff and the teachers, change is hard. And so just being willing to be open-minded and optimistic and flexible, it's appreciated.
And the biggest thing I hear from teachers all the time is, you know, let us know what's going on, keep us involved. And we've been doing a great job. I mean, we didn't have to talk about this before Christmas, and we did. And we brought it up, and we've talked about it, and got it going with staff, and that's really I hear more appreciation for that than if we, you know, went the other route. We would probably get a lot more flack. So, I mean, I think we're doing it the right way, and things have been going well, and we'll just keep plugging along. And like I told my staff, I said, as we're figuring out these schedules and whatever else, I'll pull you guys in, we'll discuss it as a group. Let you guys know, as I'm learning things, I'll let you guys know what's going on, so. That's really appreciated by the staff too, so. Yeah.
I have a question. You go back to, you talked about, when we first started talking about this, I was under the assumption that we were gonna have the 7th grade is gonna have their own little wing, and you're gonna do, now you're telling me it's gonna be,
Well,
the 4th is gonna be set.
Infants, in my mind, I'm thinking it that way. It all depends if we're gonna do, how much of a middle school setup we're gonna do. If 7th grade's gonna be just doing their rotation and then the rest, the 4, 5, 6 is gonna stay the way it is, then I think I'd have the 7th grade off by themselves for sure. But if we're gonna do more of a 5, 6, 7, kind of to get into more of a, you know, class setting like here where they kind of roll through classes and teachers are more discipline driven, where one teacher's teaching math all the 5th grade and one's doing the science, then I think I'd have 5, 6, 7 kind of in the same area of the building and 4 off by itself. So just that's still gotta get figured out.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Other than that, a couple things. Second semester is starting next week. We're halfway through the year, so that's amazing. I can't believe how fast these years go by. Some stuff since the last time I've been here to talk to you guys. I know I give the staff props, the PTO props, everyone props on the deck the halls. Just want to throw that back out there again. I know a lot of you came through for that. A lot of work. We've done it 3 or 4 years in a row. We're going to shift gears now and start doing it every other year because it is such an undertaking. I was talking with the PTO. What they want to do is to deck the halls 1 year, and then the next year they want to do that Harlem Wizards, when we have the basketball team come and that fundraiser with students and staff. So, because that's a lot of work for them too, so they want to just kind of alternate year to year to year. Staff, I mean, has jumped in and done, and students have done such a nice job with the deck the halls, but like I said, I know it's a lot of work, but it's such a cool community event. We hear so many positive things about it. It's hard not to do it every single year, but we did make a decision, and we've let the community know as much as we could so far that we're gonna go every other year with that. So just to let you know. Also, since I'm on the PTO topic, I know they came to a presentation, you guys, regarding the playground. That is moving quite quickly. They've raised, I know the PTO's raised, I wanna say they might have close to 30,000 in the bank account already. I put in for a Lake Country Power grant, and we got accepted through the first portion. So I'm going to present in front of that board next week, or maybe the week after, to see if we can get some money from that. Jess Whitney has been applying for every grant you can think of under the sun. So she's been putting in for with the IRRB and all the different grants around the area, the Having Foundation, the owns, all that stuff. We met with the city last week regarding, kind of gave them the same presentation that was given to you about the city being able to kick in some funds. I know we'll come to you here with something more formal down the road here. The goal is to have the playground in, not this fall, but the following fall. So, and now that we're making the change, it's good that we're kind of where we are in this process, because that will change the stuff we have outside. So some of the heights and different things, but they're looking at doubling the size of the playground that's out there and taking up that whole field area. Some of the pictures and stuff I've seen of the early on renderings of things that we could do, it's pretty amazing, and it'll be all inclusive, which means our handicapped wheelchair accessibility, they'll be able to get on a lot of the material, all the stuff we have outside. I mean, so I know we're working, one of the companies that they got bids from was one of the Miracle League fields. So, we're getting some people familiar with the area, getting us some information. So I'll keep you guys in the loop on that as I'm hearing things from that. But right now it's just in the fundraising money stage. So their PTO is amazing. They've been doing lots of stuff, working towards that. So other than that, just a few things coming up. We have 3rd, 4th grade, the first half of the year, little choir concerts. Instead of doing a Christmas stuff, we do 3rd and 4th grade. They'll do, and 5th, just 3rd and 4th will be now. And then I think they do 5th and 6th in the spring. So Miss Beard does all that, gets that set up. Miss Dahl helps out with stuff. So that's coming up this week. We have our traditional Ojibwe storytelling with our Indian education liaison from the high school coming over and doing some presentation to our staff and students on the 23rd. And then Miss Steeny set up, and we're bringing back and doing a 5th and 6th grade spelling bee coming up on the 24th. So, which I think then we do our school, and then I believe the winners from the school go to the service co-op. I think I'd have to check on that to do the regional one. So, yeah, lots of neat, good things going on. Last thing, we're right in the middle of our winter FastBridge window. We've talked about FastBridge a lot. That's that testing we do 3 times a year, fall, winter, spring. Just kind of gives the teachers and the students an idea of where they are, a snapshot of their learning, get that baseline in the fall, winter, and spring. And Mr. Donald is kind of the head of all that, but we're in the middle of that window right now, and that'll close coming up at the end of the month. So that's all I have, unless there's any other questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's it, yes.
Okay, with that, we'll move to item 7, administrative business. Turn it over to Sir Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Item A is a motion to approve the resolution to accept donations that consists of $1,000 from CNG to support Lego robotics.
Support.
Moved by Director Polter, supported by Director McLaughlin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item B is a second reading of policy number 606, textbooks and instructional materials and library materials. And item C is,
Need a motion to wait for the third reading?
yeah, just a second reading. Yes, there. Item C is a motion to approve the resolution declaring a school board vacancy because of a board member death.
Yeah, we have to make a resolution on this, and then we can discuss it after.
support.
afterwards we do it. It's,
Do you have that motion on that?
Yes.
yeah, it's yeah, do it for official years.
And a roll call also, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
Would you like me to read the resolution?
Sure.
Mr.
yeah.
Chair.
Go ahead.
Resolution declaring a school board vacancy because of board member death. Whereas school board member Kathy Nyberg passed away on January 4th, 2024. Whereas school board member Kathy Nyberg faithfully discharged their duties as a school board member of Independent School District 701 Hibbing Public Schools. Whereas the school board of Independent School District 701 acknowledges the contributions of school board member Kathy Nyberg in support of the success of the school district and its students. Now therefore be it resolved by the school board of Independent School District number 701, State of Minnesota as follows. Pursuant to Minnesota State statute, the board declares a vacancy and will determine a process to fill the vacancy by appointment. So that would need a roll call.
Right, is
Yes.
there a resolution?
Yes.
Roll call, Director?
Yes.
Director Egan?
Yes.
Director Dory?
Yes.
Director McLaughlin? And the chair votes yes. So that passes. With that, we'll move to item 8, discussion items, turn it over to Superintendent
Yep,
Ray.
thank you, Mr. Chair. So in front of you is a copy of some options laid out that the board would have to fill the vacancy. I apologize, I hope to get this to you over the weekend, and I know I sent you a message today that I was still waiting on it, and I got it late this afternoon, so I know a lot of you have just seen it. But from everything that I've read and everything that I understand is that the board must fill the vacancy by appointment to fill out the remainder of this year of Kathy's term. So that would mean that the appointment would run from now through December 31st, or whenever the appointment was made, through December 31st. In the general election of November of '24, this is where it gets a little confusing, we would have a special election to fill the remainder of Kathy's seat, which would be 2 years. So we would have the 3-year terms open, which are the terms for Director Egan, Director McLaughlin, and Director Berklich, and then we would have an additional 2-year term up for election to fill Kathy's term. But we do need to appoint to fill out the term prior to that special election.
And within this, there are ways, different ways you can appoint. So I would suggest that we go home and read this and feel comfortable with it. Maybe email Rick and tell him what your thoughts are on this, and maybe he can summarize it in some way, shape, or form. We can either have a special election then, or wait until the next board meeting. That should give us enough time. Or we're not under any guidelines for stipulations for the ending date, except for December 31st.
So if I don't mean to interrupt you,
Go ahead.
but a special meeting, correct? Not a special election, a special
Yeah, I
meeting
meant special.
to
Thank you.
determine the appointment, yes.
Jerry, whatever the wishes of the board is, I would be, of the notion, I would be willing to have a special meeting because I think we have some very important things coming up in very short order. And even if we pass a resolution to appoint somebody by whatever method we choose, there's a 30-day waiting period for that person to take office. So I would certainly be in support of having a special meeting so we can post a special meeting.
I think the sooner the better, and I think, giving us a chance to go home and review this for the next few days is more than adequate. And I would not be opposed to meeting as early next week, whatever meets the statute as far as notifications and stuff, so Tuesday or whatever, I think
Yeah, we'd have to
plenty of time for
give 3-day notice for unless this is an emergency, which this
This
is,
is an emergency.
72 hours.
We can do Tuesday or Wednesday next week and get moving on this.
Well, like I said, get back to Rick on that and see what, if you want to meet next week, we can throw out some dates. But just we'll make sure that we've read through this and give a couple of days to think about it.
I think we just set the date today, and
Well, not everybody's had an opportunity to read this yet.
Maybe or could Trina just call us tomorrow so we can get the date?
That's what I was gonna suggest, is if you review it, I would say, she's not gonna get notice of tomorrow, at the very latest, she'd get notice of it on Friday, so we'd be looking at
Monday or
Wednesday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday at the
Well,
earliest.
no, yeah, we've got the weekend in there.
Yeah.
And also, just to not delay the process, should the board come to an agreement on what we might choose to do, because there are various methods in here. Some are very quick, some might be more drawn out, but if the board were to choose to do something more quickly, in the posting, could we put a special meeting to discuss the process and potentially appoint a member?
Then you have to give time for the public,
Right.
so that's all written in here. We haven't carried it really yet, so that still takes some time.
Right, the 30-day waiting
Right.
period, but I'm saying if we met on Wednesday, let's just say, and depending upon what option we selected in here, right, like, there could potentially be an appointment. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to, if we came to consensus that we want to make an appointment at the next meeting, I want our posting to make sure that we've given the public the appropriate notice. Right? I mean, is that making sense?
Right, you have to let the public know,
Right.
so in case they want to contest it.
I'm not even talking about that, the 30-day part.
the contesting part you take,
That's,
30
yeah,
also goes 30 days after
Right.
the appointment.
yes, yes. I'm just talking about, we could potentially discuss a process next week,
And,
or we could discuss a process and vote.
yes,
I would want to leave our options open and post it appropriately.
Would you post it in such a way as the board, let's say, I don't even know what the date is next week, say it's January 22nd, Wednesday, January 22nd. The board is meeting to review the process to fill a vacant chair, and it would have one item. Appoint, see, until you know that person, unless you made the motion at the meeting, which again, I don't, we like to have things on our agenda ahead of time so people can react, but you could make the motion at the meeting and approve it, if it's a timely thing.
Yeah, and then you still got the 30 days.
Well, the waiting period is 30 days before they can take, no matter what date we choose.
But I mean to contest it. The
To
public
contest it,
has a
yes,
chance.
yes.
Or you go out, advertise in the public for people and pick. Or, like you said, we can, if we all have an idea, maybe tell Rick that we'd like to see maybe this person, or give him some ideas.
Well, I did run into former Director Martin at the funeral for Kathy Nyberg, and I just asked, because one of the processes is to appoint a former board member, and she did run in that last election, but she did have an interest. She said, I don't want to run again, I don't want to be on the board for another 4 years, but she said I would come back and help to fill out this term.
Like I
That's an
said,
option.
that's all stated in here.
Yep, yep.
So the quicker you can read it and get back to Rick and throw something together,
And I'll-
he and I can sit down and talk.
Have Trina call you tomorrow to set a special meeting date and choose a date.
Yeah, once you see what everybody
Yeah.
says, if that's something. Okay, so is that it? Anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. No, I don't believe I do, no.
Okay with that? Is there a motion for adjournment?
motion adjourned.
Without objection, the meeting's adjourned at 4:50, and thanks to the audience for their coming.